Hey guys, I want to give a quick shout out to all my Instagram friends that might be listening to us live and all the other streams that we're doing live right now. We just want to say, hey, from the SBC Women's Expo, I'm Diane Nix. We host every year this wonderful opportunity for exhibitors to come and just show what they can do for a woman in ministry. And we are exceptionally excited about having a new ministry with us, which is Prison Fellowship Ministries, right? Yes. Did I say that correctly?
Prison Fellowship, yep.
Prison Fellowship, and today I have Miss, let me make sure I get this correct and say your name right, Sofia Sanchez. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Sofia Sanchez, and she is the Church Experience Manager, and I'm just so glad you're here, Sofia.
Thank you for having me, Diane. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am glad your ministry is here, that you've set up your exhibit here with the Angel Tree. I'm super excited about finding out a little bit more about the ministry and exactly what women can do to be involved with Prison Fellowship. I think sometimes we think that we have to just do certain aspects of Prison Fellowship, but it's so much more than just sending teams in.
Yes.
It's so much more, and I want to hear about that, and I want to hear about your role in that ministry. So why don't you take it from here?
Yeah, absolutely. So Prison Fellowship, of course, is a nationwide prison ministry, and we constantly hear about being able to go in and minister to the men and women and do all the work. Yes. But the great work that we get to do is outside with the families through Angel Tree. And so a lot don't know about the Angel Tree side of things.
No,
and so,
they don't.
Yeah, even, going into prison, so I got to go into jails in Miami where I live, and I had never heard of it, and I was just so blown away to see, because I think so often we forget families. We forget, we think about the incarcerated and we want to go do ministry to them, but we forget that there is a mom, there is a grandma, there is an aunt, there's
a lot of
child.
times left in a crisis situation.
Correct.
That don't have the needs or the funds or even the emotional stability to carry on in life, right?
Right, because now they're down to one income. They're down to one just, household. They could be just in crisis. And so, because we're constantly doing ministry, we want to make sure that we're handling every side of their family aspect, whether it's the incarcerated person or it is the family. And so we want to make sure to always think of them. So with Angel Tree, we get to do that. So part of my role as a church experience manager is connecting with the local churches who get to love on these families, who get to love with these families in their local area. So we connect the families directly to a church within a certain mile radius. So these are children that are going to our kids' schools.
Wow.
That we can invite to our churches.
Which a lot of times there's a stigma there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's an they could be ostracized because of where their parent might be.
Right.
Right? I mean, it may not be just the dad. It might be the mom.
Exactly.
Like, that's unfortunate today,
Yep.
but it's reality. And so you're going to be ministering to the whole person, to the whole family unit itself, right?
Correct.
So let's talk a little bit about the history of Prison Fellowship. Tell me a little bit about that.
And I'll tell you the history of Angel Tree specifically.
Okay.
So with Angel Tree was actually started by Miss Mary K. Beard, who was actually a notorious bank robber. So I was just blown away. I was like, what? She was actually on the FBI's most wanted, 39 on the FBI's most wanted list.
Whoa.
Yes, it's mind-blowing. But Mary Kate Beard, she got arrested at 27. She had a 21-year sentence before her. But she had to go into the jails. And sometimes the Lord has to find us in these places, when we have hit rock bottom.
Yes.
And so the only thing she could grab onto was a Bible. And she went and read Ezekiel. Ezekiel, yes, where the Lord writes in Ezekiel 36, where he'll give us a new heart and a new life. And with just one prayer, she gave her life to the Lord and just started.
And it changed her.
It changed her whole life.
That Bible changed her.
That one Bible verse changed her life. And so she only had to serve 6 years sentence. When she got out, she was actually the first field director in Prison Fellowship. And she was tasked, hey, what can we do to love on the families during the Christmas time? And she remembered that during the Christmas time, she would see the women just wrapping up little soaps or exchanging socks, little things just to give to the children. And when the children would come pick up the gift from mom, their eyes would glow, just the fact that mom didn't forget about me. And so when she got out, she's like, I need to make sure that we get local churches, or even anyone. In the beginning, she started with malls and just putting angels in the malls and getting what the children wanted and getting the gift. So the gift comes directly from mom and dad with a message from mom or dad. So she was just able to launch this through Prison Fellowship.
And how long ago was that?
This was about, I'm just throwing it out there, about almost 30 something years ago. Because
That's
Prison
incredible.
Fellowship, or it might be a little longer, because Prison Fellowship is near 50 years.
Yes.
When Chuck Colson started the ministry.
Yes.
And so Angel Tree came just a few years after that, and has been just growing and being able to serve love the children.
And I love Chuck Colson. So
Yes, his story
so
is incredible.
this aspect of this ministry of how one man's brokenness and vision then started another part, an aspect of the ministry that now is ministering to the family as a whole, right?
Yes, correct.
And for those women who are incarcerated, to give their children a gift from them that maybe their children desire, right?
Yes.
Because now I'm assuming that we have the ability to be, the child is able to say what he or she wants.
Right. So what happens is, because we get to connect with the caregivers ahead of time, we kind of tell them, hey, what is the child like? What are they into? You know, and then we, as the church, will go buy the gift and then be able to deliver it to the child. And the child doesn't know that this gift is coming. And when they see the message from mom or dad, it's just incredible just to see their face and the change. And just, I actually had, and just a quick, I just had a coordinator that does Angel Tree in her church in California recently, or just this past year, that came up to me and she's like, did you know that I was an Angel Tree child? And I'm like, what? She's
wow. And now she's a coordinator?
And now she's a coordinator for her church, because she remembered that her dad had sent her a gift through a church. And when she gave her life to Christ a few years later and realized what Angel Tree was, how she got that gift, she's like, I have to bring this to my church. I need to give back to how I was impacted and how the Lord just worked in my life through those years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going off script with our questions because this is so good. Yeah. This conversation is so good. And so what I want to do is I want to ask you a couple of questions, as far as I know that this is essential to women's ministry.
Yes.
Because your women can be so involved. Your ministry to women and your women's ministry can be so involved in Angel Tree, as they are with one of our sponsors here is Operation Christmas Child.
Yes.
And we know how important that ministry is through the Graham ministry and through the Samaritan's Purse. But this aspect is really taking care of partnering with families in the U.S. today.
Locally.
Yep. Locally. So how does that happen for our women's ministry? How can a church get hold of Angel Tree and actually, even while they're doing Operation Christmas Child, how can they do then the Angel Tree? Tell us about that. Tell me how we get started on that.
So a lot of churches do both.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, because it's just, they're both such great ministry, and it's so hard to pick one sometimes. But with Angel Tree, they can contact us directly through our website or even our social medias. We do have ways to, so we always select a coordinator for the church, and most times it's the women's group.
Yes.
Or it is a prayer group that comes together, and they can register and take care of just being able to contact the families, pray with the families, be able to buy the gifts, and so they'll coordinate it for the church to be able to go out and do, and then they'll go out in teams. You could deliver the gifts, or you can host a little event or a breakfast, a women's breakfast, invite them in to come and love on the families and just remind them, hey, we're your local church and we want to love on
So that
you.
will happen probably first couple of weeks of December, then they try to wrap it up and be able to get it all to them beforehand, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually start in October, because we know ministry in December is crazy sometimes.
Crazy.
And so we start early October. We start already releasing the children's information to the churches in early October, so the coordinators have more than enough time to contact them, and the church decides how they want to deliver, or if they want to host an event, and they decide on the date. Normally it's December, or it could be in November early, all depending on the schedule of the church.
That's awesome. So how does the Angel Tree help women connect relationally and generationally?
Yeah, so I would say with that, because we're connecting them to local churches, our hope is really to be able, so we say it starts with a gift, because that's just the open door to really be able to connect with these moms, these grandmas, and be able to love on them, and not just on a one-time basis, but hey, would you join our women's group? Would you be able to join our breakfast, our prayer breakfast, and continuously just be able to love on them throughout the year, even when they reject you, even when they say no. I always say we're planting seeds.
Yes.
You know, and even if it's just that one family that comes back, that mom that's able to just say, wow, thank you so much for what you've done, but being able to also just love on them in such a way that they've never been loved before, especially in the day and age that we live in, that's so hard to have that
well,
love.
unconditional love,
Unconditional love,
well, there's real unconditional love.
Regardless of their mistakes.
Right.
Regardless of...
Right. Whether or not they even really know the Lord or not.
Right.
Right? So how does it help sharing the gospel with those women or those families as you share Angel Tree with them?
Yeah, and I think the gospel is the core of it all. You know, being able to like start and share the gospel with them and live out the gospel before them. You know, and be able
not
to
only share it in verbally,
correct,
and ask for them to come to know the Lord, but then back it up by saying, okay, and here, and whether or not you receive the Lord or not, here's how we're going to serve you and minister to you with Angel Tree to
correct.
you. Okay, one final question.
Yes, of course.
How has the gospel and serving in ministry as a woman impacted you? And what does it cost you, if any? I know it probably has. And has it been worth it?
I can start with it absolutely has been worth it. It's definitely been a rough road because one thing I think, you know, I remember early on and when I started the women's course in New Orleans, I went to New Orleans for a little while. And I remember being told, well, there's not a lot of opportunities for women in ministry. And I just remember the Lord just nudging at my heart. It's like, I'm setting you up for something, you know.
Wow.
And I just had to keep the course and not listen to the things.
Stay the course, right?
Yeah, stay the course and just honestly obey God's word and obey where He's leading us. Because so many times we want it our own way and we want it in our own time.
Yes.
And so sometimes it just takes
word.
Years to be able to get to what the Lord really has for us.
Yes.
And so for me, it's cost family time, you know, because I travel with work, but I get to do the Lord's work. And so in that, I've had to have a little bit of sacrifice in that. And my family, thank God, they're supportive and they're great.
They're cheering you on.
They're cheering me on. But, you know, it's hard because I'm mom and dad stays behind with them. And so sometimes it's been hard to just parent from afar. But it's been so worth it because they get to see me living out the gospel and living out what Christ has done for me, and to be able to do it passionately and just really obey what the Lord has called me to do in this season. Yes. Because it can change with time, but the Lord is good and He will guide us as long as we just follow His leading. Because I constantly even say, even where I'm at, Lord, if you're not with me, then I don't want to be here.
Amen.
I want to be where He has me and what He has for me.
Right. And that you have the approval of your husband.
Yes.
He's supportive and he's a supportive. How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
So even as you are serving in ministry and sacrifice of that time, you would say it's worth it.
Absolutely.
And you have the approval and stamp of this man to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, Sofia, I am cheering you on, and I pray that you have multiple people and contacts from this exhibit and this time and even in this podcast that people will sign on to. Give me the website. Let's give the
angeltree.org.
Angeltree.org. Sign on and get connected so that you can do the Angel Tree this Christmas for prisoners in your area, right?
Absolutely. And we have needs nationwide.
Nationwide. So, let's do it, okay? Let's make that a challenge. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Dan.
And we'll be back with you in a little while with the SBC Women's Expo podcast. I'm Diane Nix. God bless.